everyone, I'm Captain Logan. Welcome back to the Captain Logan Show. I am flying solo this evening, and unfortunately, DJ was not able to make it, and I wasn't able to get another moderator at last minute. So everybody, bear with me tonight, if you would. I'm going to be doing everything on my own. I'm going to be having to keep up with super chats, and I'm going to be having to compile your questions, and I already have quite a few. So I've got some to get started right away on, and like I said, I got to keep track of super chats as well. We got a goal tonight. It's a $50 goal. If we hit $50 tonight, I will do an extra show for you next week, and hopefully that will also include a moderator, but who knows? It could just be me all by my lonesome. I could be in some other place. I could be broadcasting from my iPad. Anything is possible. Thanks a bunch for being here, everybody. A whole bunch of howdies there in the comments. I see David Crabtree. I see Anime 2019, Divid22, Noah O. I guess Divid22 is actually leaving. He just popped in to say hello, I think. Blue Dragon 5, if I didn't say his name already. Kristen Ogden, Gregory Davidson. It's good to see everybody. Matthew Bass. A few names that I'm not immediately familiar with or haven't seen in a long time. Thanks for popping in, folks. Gregory Davidson, Cab should broadcast from the Eiffel Tower. Yeah, that would be difficult. There's a part of me that would love to see France, and then I was in the Paris airport a couple years ago. It was just the worst thing ever, and I don't know if I would want to go back there just to not have to deal with the airport. So yeah, somebody just asked if I collect Funko Pops. I guess I'll answer that right away. Yes, indeed I do, but only Batman. I guess I have a few others, and there are some others in my house that my kids collect and like to play with. Jason's collecting all the Power Rangers. I collect just Batman. So if it has bat ears, or is Bruce Wayne, I collect it. We just hit the goal, folks, already. I thought I was seeing this incorrectly, but I don't think I am. The Day Ghost has already jumped us all the way over the goal with a $69. Am I seeing that right? A $69.99 super chat. Thanks so very much. So 2 minutes into the show, we're already definitely going to have a second show next week. Wow. Thank you so very much. That's amazing. So I guess I'll go ahead and answer that question real quick. Hey, Cap, who would win in a fight to the death? Dan, Tori, or Eric? Personally, I think Dan would use his lawyer skills to trick Eric into blowing himself up. Then Dan would tell everyone he blew himself up, dude. Hilarious. Thanks, Day Ghost. That's great. So, for folks that are not aware, but have watched Eric on the channel, Eric used to have his own channel called Blows Himself Up Dude, and it was a name that he came to absolutely loathe and wished he could change, and I guess at one time he could have changed, but I guess decided not to, maybe just because that's what people were familiar with. I'm not sure. But anyway, that's what Day Ghost was alluding to there. I don't know who would win in a fight between Dan and Eric. I think them's even odds. I will say, and I'm sure Eric won't mind me saying this, Dan works out like a lot, like an hour or two a day, I think, during the week. And Eric and I have not, he used to go to the gym together, and we haven't done that in a long time. But Eric is a pretty stout guy, so he's not been like building up the musculature, lifting weights, but he's a pretty big guy. I think he could maybe still take Dan. So anyway, Blue Dragon 5 says that DJ is in the house. DJ is looking at the show, I think, but isn't actually going to be able to be here for various reasons. If we'd started an hour later, he could have. I didn't realize that. And long story short, DJ's had some complications today, and with some stuff, and thought he couldn't make it. Then it looked like maybe he could. I was waiting for him, and then it turned out that he was going to be another hour, and I had already been chatting with you guys in the comments and told you I was about to broadcast, so I didn't want to leave you guys hanging. So I hope everybody understands that, and super cool of DJ to try to be here, of course, as always, and I'm sure we'll see him again next week for at least one of those shows. But 2 shows next week. Really excited about that. If at any point during the show, of course, you want to make sure that your question or comment gets read on camera, you can leave a super chat. We've already got a few of those, and we are already over the goal. So I'm not saying that, of course, to be greedy, but just to suggest that that's the way you can absolutely make certain that your question or comment gets read on air. I have quite a few already. If you want to do a pre-written one, you can put one in the comments, and I will try to compile those as much as humanly extremely possible, but I very likely missed some because I'm working all by my lonesome tonight. So let's go ahead and go to a couple of other super chats. We'll knock these out, and then I'll go to some pre-written. Creepy Spacey 999 super chat. Thanks so much, man. Cap, do you think narrative plot holes / conveniences always matter? I feel like certain character studies can get away with these because they're less about plot and more about emotion. And I'm a broken record. I've said this 1,000 times, but it's all about making it clear what exactly it is that you're up to. So I think internal logic always matters if it's a narrative piece. It's all about not distracting me with things that don't feel like they belong, is really the long and short of it. So even if you are about the emotion more than you're about the an overall narrative package, if it's just about trying to make me feel something, if you're presenting yourself as a traditional narrative, and you're presenting yourself as having an internal logic, that matters. If you're contradicting yourself, in like cheating to get to the next plot point or whatever, yeah, even if that's your emphasis, I think that is still a problem because it's gonna take me out. But it's all about, and this is a very case-by-case sort of thing. I would almost have to see an example of what you would consider not a problem for a narrative, contradicting itself, or having logical issues like that because its emphasis is in a different place. But by and large, the most important thing is to make it clear what you're up to and then live up to that. Kristen Ogden, $5 super chat. Who is an A-list villain from both DC and Marvel that you just don't care for? My DC is Penguin and Marvel is Kingpin. Man, put me on the spot with that. I mean, I definitely have some. And this is where it gets tough being all by my lonesome, because if I had a friend here, they'd be like, well, yes, obviously, Cap, there's this thing that you're always complaining about that you just don't like. Let me think. There was a time where I also felt that way about the Penguin, and there are certain versions of that character I like a lot, and other versions that I just never care for. Professor Pig is one that I have a hard time getting excited about when he shows up and stuff. Even Morrison, and I've not read every appearance with that character, but maybe I can be turned around on that. But I guess that's my DC and my Batman answer. As far as Marvel goes, let me think for a second. I'm not. I mean, I know a lot of people really love Kang, and I think I just haven't read a lot of great Kang, because people get super excited about that character when he shows up, and I just don't. But I don't dislike Kang. I just haven't read enough of him to get really excited about. Anime 2019, I guess that's true that Professor Pig isn't exactly an A-list villain. Yeah, I don't know if I have any major A-listers that I just don't really care for. Software Agents TV says, I don't really care for Darkseid and Mandarin. There was a time where I had that with Mandarin, and, I think you have to call him A-list at this point, especially because he's kind of, the big Iron Man villain, at least in the comics, so that's close enough to A-list. But then I've read some decent Mandarin stories now. I think I've just read enough comics now that I don't have this as much as I used to. Let's see. If I think of any more, I'll throw them out. Tyler Parker, $5 super chat. Can you do in Marvel? I don't completely understand that. Can you do in Marvel does and just announce a Geekvolution? Oh, do what Marvel does, I guess is what you mean, and just announce a Geekvolution slate. I'd love to know what rewinds and commentaries we have to look forward to. I don't like to do that, partly because it's liable to change. Too often when I announce stuff, something will happen where I'll have to renege on that announcement and make some kind of statement of, withdrawing it. So I don't like to announce stuff too often. Sometimes with Rewind, I will tell you what the very next one is if I'm definitely working on it, but stuff can change or get moved around for all kinds of various reasons. I would be, of course, more of a well-oiled machine if I had the resources to have more of a staff. Obviously, I've got Eric and DJ helping me out some, but by and large, I am very much a one-man operation, and at least with the video production side of things. And so, stuff can happen and change, and that makes it difficult for me to want to announce too much of a slate. And when I've done, what ends up happening is I overextend myself. When I tend to announce, like, here's all the stuff that you can look forward to this year, some of it might not end up happening because I'm busy. I'm a dad. I've got a part-time gig selling back issue comics and stuff. Like, I have a lot of things going on, and so that makes it very difficult to do that. But I get why you'd like to see that. At one time, I did do more of that. I used to have a weekly schedule, 5 days a week. Here's exactly what show you can expect on what day, and I just hate to disappoint people when things have to change, which is why I don't do that as often. And also, I think it's kind of fun to surprise people. This isn't true of everything, but some things I find, if I don't tell people about them when I post them, they get hit harder. More people will click because they're so surprised by it, instead of everybody knowing exactly what it is. I am going to announce to you guys at the end of the show what the next rewind is, because I just finished it. I'm doing a science fiction rewind. I'm going to announce that at the end of this. It's going to go up to Patreon tomorrow, so you'll have that to look forward to if you're a patron, or if you want to become a patron at just the $2 tier. That will allow you to see the rewind 3 days early. That's not going to go up until Saturday or Sunday. But you'll get to see it tomorrow if you're a patron, and I will tell you what that is at the end of the show. If I forget to do that, since I don't have a partner to help me out tonight, somebody please mention it in the comments and be like, hey, Cap, you said you'd say this, and you didn't say this. Before I get to more super chats, let's go to a pre-written question, shall we? Anime 2019, are you planning on reviewing Legends of the Superheroes on Superhero Rewind? Also, have you listened to Frank Gorshin voicing Hugo Strange in The Batman? I never have done that. I don't think. Now that you're refreshing my memory, I knew he was in that show, and I think I have even forgotten that he was Hugo Strange, so I should check that out. I started rewatching I started going back to that show and trying to watch through it when it was on Netflix. And I think it's back on DC Universe now, so I can do that again and finally try to get through that show. But I watched through most of the first season and liked it a whole lot better than I did when it was out. I used to somewhat infamously, for folks on the channel, not like that show, and I have come to reassess it a little bit. But yeah, I didn't know that. Yes, I will definitely do Legends of the Superheroes at some point. That has been kind of on and off of my short list, but I've done so much 60s Batman stuff, and at Christmas I reviewed Return of the Cape Crusaders, so it's not on the short list right now because I want to kind of spread out the Adam West material since there's so little of it left to review. But eventually, someday, absolutely, that counts as a superhero movie. Let's do another pre-written question before we get back to the super chats. I'm still calling them pre-written. It doesn't make sense. I don't care. John Thai, or Ty, are you up to date with modern comics? The short answer is no. I'm pretty behind on stuff, and I've talked about this a little bit recently. I have stopped buying as much recent, and I've started kind of changing my strategy a little bit. I've been gap filling a lot of Silver Age and Bronze Age lately. I've been spending some of the money that I used to spend on current comics to go back and do some gap filling while things are still inexpensive enough to be able to buy, because a lot of things are going up in value now, and I just really missed doing that. Almost 10 whole years of buying modern comics. I was very rarely buying anything very valuable or older, and I've started doing that again. I've been really working on Batman lately. I've been periodically posting those on Facebook, and I showed you guys some books that I bought, I think a couple weeks ago on that collecting Captain Logan show that we did. And anyway, so that's been fun. I think I bought 15 or 20 Silver Age Batmans and Detectives just this year alone. I've been working on that. And I've been reading in digital a lot more, and that lets me review stuff on the channel that I don't necessarily own. It makes it easier to not have to hunt things down, and it makes things a little bit more inexpensive. So it's been kind of better for the overhead of the channel overall, and it lets people request things without my having to, again, go and try to hunt them down. You can request just about anything now, and I'll be able to get my hands on it, which is really nice. But Marvel remains 6 months behind, and DC remains 12 months behind, and buying new books, I was taking forever to get to a lot of things anyway. I just don't have a lot of time in my week to sit down and read new comics. But I have started buying again a little bit more than I was. I have updated my pull list, and I have a little bit more on it. I bought the first few issues of, I guess what's out so far, of Deceased. Their sort of answer to Marvel Zombies, and it's written by the guy who does the Injustice comics, and it reads a lot like those, and I like those so far. That, I mean, the writing in that book is pretty hit and miss, I have to be honest with you, but there's a novelty to that book that I was never able to escape, and that's why I enjoyed it. It's real kind of popcorny or bubblegummy to me, but Deceased is even more that way, and I did not care for that first issue. I haven't read any farther past that, but I didn't like it. I didn't think it was great. I've just caught up on Ninja Turtles. Issue 95 has a big kind of bombshell at the end of it. If you've not heard about it, I don't want to give it away to anybody that maybe is looking at that book and hasn't seen that yet, but a thing that a lot of people have been waiting for a long time. It'll be interesting to see how it's handled. A lot of people think it's a new character. It's actually not a new character. It's a character transformed, a character that we already had in that book, transformed, which I won't get too far into. And then Power Rangers, I'm still buying. We just started a new status quo, leaping backward and sort of forward, because I say forward. We had this big arc after Shattered Grid where we had a bunch of Rangers from different eras who were all on a ship together in another dimension, and we've now gotten rid of that and gotten to the Season 2 status quo of Mighty Morphin. So we've got White Ranger, which is why issue 40 was hard to get your hands on, because it was the first appearance of White Ranger, even though that's technically not true because of specials and stuff. But anyway, I'm excited about it. I just finally got my hands on that issue. For some reason, it didn't make my pull list. I've got one now. I have one of the cool holofoil covers. It's really pretty, and it's exciting because that is the regular villain again, or finally, which I've been really looking forward to. So yeah, those are some things that I'm looking at right now. Let's get back to Super Chats. And I just want to make absolutely certain that I don't skip anything. T-Edge won, $5 Super Chat. At what point does the jock versus nerds flip? For a second, I thought your question was going to be, when are we going to make that a show? Nerds not jocks, geeks not jocks. At what point does the jock versus nerds flip and it becomes uncool to be a jock and nerds bully jocks? You rock, and I'm sorry I am missing the chat. Thanks for that. Oh, that reminds me, we got a super chat from somebody last week that happened after the show that we weren't, just as we were ending, that we weren't able to get to. It was one from Back Studio, so I'll get to that here in just a second. I don't even know if he's with us, but I am going to answer his his super chat from last week. To answer your question, T-Edge, when does the jock versus nerds thing flip? I don't think this is a pendulum swing. I think it's just a kind of evolution or just a change in culture, right? I think there's more of a blending of those things than anything. I think at some time down the road, I guess it is possible that we could get back to something closer to a status quo that we used to have, where you do have more of the jocks versus nerds thing. But I don't think nerds are ever going to be on top in the sense of we're beating them up because they're uncool. I don't see that ever happening. Some of that is just physical. Some of that is just a stature thing, right? Where I think one of the big things that's changing is that it's not as uncool to be smart and know stuff as it used to be. I think the lines have blurred a lot with that because everybody uses the technology that those people used to get made fun of and beaten up for. And so when everybody is texting on their phones all the time and knows what an application is and that sort of thing, a lot of the lingo becomes like just regular stuff everybody says. It has become what nerds were saying, or the equivalent of that 15 or 20 years ago when they were getting beaten up. But you still have some equivalency of nerd where you have socially awkward people that are maybe diminutive in stature, that maybe don't look like they can protect themselves, and so they're easy to go after. I think you're always going to have some degree of that, especially in like in school, in elementary school, high school, that sort of thing. I don't think that's ever going to completely go away, but I think the things that make you a nerd, even if we're not even calling it that anymore, like the terminology is changing, but the things that make you, I don't know, beat upable, that where you're a target, some of those things are changing, and some of them I think are staying the same. David Crabtree, $2 super chat. A live superhero movie trivia show coming soon. Thanks for reminding me about that. I said when we hit 550 on Patreon that I would do that, and to be honest with you, I forgot all about it. So thanks for reminding me. Yes, we will do that soon. I don't know how soon. I should mention this. This is a good time to talk about this. I'm going to be taking a trip to Boston to see Dan Torrey in about a week and a half. So right at the end of this month. And Dan and I are going to make some videos while I'm there. We're going to do a live show, I am sure. We were talking about that earlier today. We're not sure what other content we're going to make. We might do a commentary. We might do some stuff on Star Wars comics. I've been getting in kind of a Star Wars mood the last couple of weeks. And so I mentioned that to say that while I'll be making some content while I'm there with Dan, I'll be out of pocket and won't be doing some other things that I would usually do, of course, while I'm there. I'm just going to be there for a week. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that. So I don't know when that trivia show is going to happen. It'll probably be next month. That's the main reason I mentioned that. Okay, the super chat from last week, and then I'll get to some pre-written, came from Bag Studios, and he put in a $4.99 super chat. What would Stephen King's Batman be like? Pennywise as the Joker, Catwoman from Pet Cemetery, criminals go to Shawshank House for the criminally insane. That's hilarious. Well, first of all, I think Stephen King could potentially do some great Batman. Obviously, the first thing, the immediate place to go with him is Arkham, is that kind of thing. And if Stephen King tackled Batman, if he did a comic or a short story or whatever it was, I think you'd want to see him do a number of the Rogues Gallery and not necessarily just one guy. Although Stephen King doing some of the more minor crazed villains like Zaz and people like that make a lot of sense in my brain. But, you know, the obvious jokey places to go, like, of course, it's got to take place in a really small town, and of course, he's got to spend, like, 200 pages giving you all the background of all the characters before anything really happens. Maybe you don't even meet Batman until that point in the story. But I think Stephen King is a real, is almost like an obvious person to write Batman who's never done it before. Stephen King hasn't done a lot in comics, but it would be really cool to see him do like a miniseries or something. But yeah. My dogs are barking upstairs. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Okay, let me go back to a little bit of pre-written here. Cinematographic. Dear Captain Logan, if Alan Silvestri composed music for Star Trek, should it sound similar to the original sound and tone, or should Silvestri go his own way with the score? I think he is, by and large, a pretty traditional film scorer, and I would imagine that he would take a pretty traditional tack with it. That's my immediate guess. I don't know that he would go back to the drawing board if he were to do a Star Trek score. When you say original, I'm assuming you mean movies. I would think that he would go back and he would look at Goldsmith and some of the guys that were writing scores for the TOS movies, Wrath of Khan, of course, and stuff like that. But I think, I mean, his sensibilities are right for it. I think if he did a Star Trek score, it would sound, it would maybe not sound exactly like any other Star Trek score, but it would be recognizable. I would imagine. Vampire Diaries, $5 super chat. Given that the Toy Story sequels are all numbered, what subtitle would you give each film? Oh man, put me on the spot with that. That's a great question. I mean, let's see. That's hard. I would want some time to come up with really good ones. Like obviously, I'm just thinking of like the themes and the premises of each of those. Like Toy Story 2, Return of Zurg, but no, you know, because that's just I'm glad those don't have subtitles. Let me just say that, because I think that could get like real silly and real corny real quick. But man, I hate to just cop out and not actually do this. We'll see if anybody's coming up with any good ones in the comments here. But I guess Toy Story 4 would be like Forky Begins. I guess I'll work backwards. Toy Story 2, Woody's Roundup. That's pretty good. Blue Dragon 5. That's yeah, I can't think of anything better than that. Yeah, but Rainbow Color Warrior, I don't know that 4 will be the last Toy Story, so there's that. Back Studios mentions that the specials have titles. Well, sure. I mean, you got to separate them out somehow. They wouldn't just be like Little Special 1, Little Special 2. Toy Story 3, Beware of Hugs. That's my answer. Okay. Any other super chats? I'm going to run backwards, I guess, because I just tackled one and didn't realize there were some before it. If I miss you, let me know. Random Reviewer, $5 super chat. Thank you so much for reviewing Ultimate Spider-Man. After Spectacular, it's my favorite version. I hope to see you and Eric eventually finish that run. For folks that don't know what he's talking about, he, of course, doesn't mean the TV show. He means the Bendis comics. And yes, we are going to keep going with that. Folks weren't sure if we were going to do that or not, and we wanted to kind of surprise you with Volume 8, considering that there are a lot of shows that Eric and I used to do that we just don't have time for anymore, and there's stuff that's not off the table that eventually we might try to get back to, but again, I'm streamlining. I don't want to overexert myself, and also Eric is extremely busy with his new job and does not have the time to commit to Geekvolution stuff like he used to. I've been getting a whole lot of, I don't want to say a whole lot, I've been getting some requests from people lately where I'll do a video on my own and people will be like, oh, I'm so disappointed Eric's not here. With a lot of those, if I didn't put them out, they just wouldn't come out if I had to wait for Eric, because he does not have time to be on as much stuff. So he's averaging about a video a week right now, and he's doing the very best he can. That's about all I can expect from him. He's busy with work. He's got a girlfriend that he doesn't see as often as he'd like to. He's got a lot going on. He's got a life. When he first got here, he had a lot more free time, and now he's very busy because he has his own life here, which is great. So anyway, that's that. I wanted to mention the whole how come I don't see Eric as much anymore thing. But yeah, we've really been enjoying talking about those, and they read fast. They're easy to do, and folks seem to really enjoy us talking about those. So I'm glad that we are still doing that as well. Roger Lee, $2 super chat. Do you have any superhero rewind in panels planned? Yeah. So this is a great example of what I was talking about earlier, where I will announce a thing and then not quite get to it yet, and I hate doing that. I feel so unprofessional about it. The short answer is yes. I do have at least one request with Superhero Rewind in panels. We have a request here for Rewind, and somebody did do one for that. I've not actually made one yet. I announced that months ago, said I was going to do Rewinds occasionally on comic events. Have not gotten to any yet. It will happen. I cannot promise when. I will say the first one will be that request. I don't even want to say what it is yet. I'll let you guys guess. But eventually, primarily I'll do those on events. There might be some like smaller graphic novels and miniseries and things like that, but for the most part, I think it would be cool to do analyses on big sprawling events. I do want to do one eventually on Death of Superman. I have done an off the cuff video on that, but I've never talked about Reign of the Supermen and Return of or Superman it's not Superman Lives, but it's When Superman Returns. Anyway, I've not done videos on either of those, and it would be cool to do one big epic video on just the whole saga. And I've got some other things like that I'd like to do as well. Let me see if anybody else. Oh yeah, more super chats. Thank you guys so very much. I just don't like potty humor, and so I'm not going to say the name of this person out loud, but thank you for the super chat. $4.99 super chat. Cap, what's worse, Star Trek V: The Final Frontier or Star Wars: The Last Jedi? Rose Tico is a worse character than Jar Jar Binks. I don't know I don't even entirely know how I feel about that character. She didn't really do anything for me in Last Jedi, but, like, she didn't, just annoy the crap out of me or anything. So I don't know if I would agree with that, but those are very difficult things to compare. I think they're both baffling in different ways. They're actually really interesting to compare because they, I guess in their ways, they both sort of subvert expectations, right? They both do things that you wouldn't have expected to see in a Star Trek or a Star Wars film. I don't even know that I'd say that I like one over the other. I mean, like, I've made it, clear that I have huge issues with Last Jedi and did not love that movie. But I was entertained by a lot of stuff in it, at least first time out, not knowing where it was going. So I don't even know which of those I would say is more entertaining than the other. I think that's almost a tie, honestly, for me. And I don't mean to cop out. I really think that's tough. Okay, so let's get back to some pre-written, and then we'll go to super chats. We've got about 25 minutes left on the clock. Thanks again, everybody, for being here. What else? Bert Diggler, what are your thoughts on Frozen 2? I don't have any except kind of jokey things. Like, first time I saw that trailer, I was like, man, I really expected this movie to be like Elsa opening her own school for gifted youngsters, because she's got like the way the way they talk about her powers in that trailer. I was like, yeah, this is kind of just a world of mutants, but in like a fantasy Disney world, right? The big thing I'm wondering is what the soundtrack is going to be like for that movie, how that's going to work as a musical, because obviously the big phenomenon that came out of that movie was that song, was Let It Go. And it will be very classy of them if they have the guts not to find some way to shove it in there. I'm kind of half expecting that to, and that's part of that character's character arc. I don't even know how you put that back in there, but that song was so big that I really kind of expect it to wend its way in there again. And, like, You've Got a Friend in Me and Toy Story, like, you can complain that it's overused and that it doesn't need to be in every movie. I still can't remember if 2 has it or not, but the other 3, they all use it. But that's always thematically relevant, and it also doesn't feel like, oh man, we're afraid nobody's gonna like our movie or come see it if it doesn't have this song in it. It just feels like it's kind of the theme, thematically and musically of that whole universe. Let It Go isn't, and I'm kind of worried that it's going to be there, and I hope it's not. Or that I'm sure they'll come up with some other kind of ballad to try to, if they don't do that, to try to top it or try to get close to it. But anyway, I'm sure I'll go to that movie. It's funny because I think I got so burnt out on that song I never wanted to see that movie again. But I reviewed it and flipped my sign green, and I liked it fine. And I'm curious to see how that performs, because, it's nice that they didn't rush a sequel out. It's been a while, 4 or 5 years at least? So they're doing kind of the Pixar thing with it, where they're really taking their time to make the sequel. It's curious because, of course, like, a lot of the little girls that were just obsessed with that song, with that movie, are quite a bit older now, but I still hear I've been to some, like, family karaoke at restaurants and stuff. My kids really love karaoke, and the little girls always pull that out, even still. So I imagine the box office for that will be pretty decent. 5590ERS. Cap, are you looking forward to the Batman Hush animated movie, and do you think it will be better than the comic? Honestly, I'm not. I think I've talked about this before, but it's still set in that New 52 continuity, New 52 inspired continuity. I don't like a lot of the writing in those. A couple of them have been okay, and decent, but almost none maybe none, with characters that are pre-established that I like already. Like the first Teen Titans movie they did, the Teen Titans vs. Justice League movie, it's quite good. But they wrote out the Justice League for most of that movie and had them just kind of mind controlled and fighting the Teen Titans, and that was fine because I don't like that Justice League, and I don't like any of those voices. They did not win me over with their Superman, with their two Death Superman movies. It didn't work. I didn't like it. So I'm not really looking forward to this. Is it possible it's better than that book? Yeah. It could also make more sense than that book and be less gimmicky and still not be as entertaining, which is kind of what I'm expecting with it. Okay, let's go back to the super chat. I'll do these in order now. Bags. Oh, I'm sorry. Creepy Spacies, $1.99. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on Jessica Jones 3. So, I'm the only person I know that's watching that, so when I do a spoiler cast on it, or how we felt about however I handle that, I don't know if I'll do full spoilers on it or not. It just depends on how much I have to say about it. It will probably be solo. It will be on my own. I was rushing through it, and then other stuff came up, and then I really wanted to get through this rewind, so I have not watched it in about a week and a half, but I'm up through episode 8. I think I'm starting. I think I watched the first like 10 or 15 minutes of 9, so like I'm getting close. But hopefully I can get that knocked out before I go see Dan. I'm just not sure yet, but I'm going to do my best. I'll just say right now, from what I've watched of it, it's a huge improvement over season 2, and I've not been bored watching it. I didn't stop because I was bored of it. I just had to take a break from it to do other things. But it has kept me engaged, and I've been interested in it. I think it's a tighter narrative, and it's got a much better sense of what to do with its supporting cast. That's the big thing, is that there don't seem to be just a bunch of random disparate subplots that might converge later. It always feels like the narratives are intertwined, and I'm not losing my main character over other characters I don't care about. I'm not in love with everything with Hogarth, but at least she's not running off doing her own thing for the whole season. She's very intertwined in everything, and is kind of a villain and a hero at the same time, like she often has been. So it's both interesting and frustrating. But anyway, I'll talk about that when I get finished with it. But it's been pretty decent so far. Pandora, $2 super chat. How much should Disney Plus TV cross over with MCU film? That's a good question, because we know that they're supposed to talk to each other, and that like the TV stuff will matter now. But yeah, should you do so much of it that you have to keep up with all those TV shows to know what's going on in the films? That doesn't seem smart for getting the general populace in the movie theater, right? You don't want to leave them in the dust. But like, I would think the way you'd want to handle that is you have more crossing over from the films into TV than you do the other way around, where like maybe you can use some of those characters in movies and have them pop in occasionally, but try to do it in such a way where you don't have to have watched the shows. I think that's maybe asking for too much of a commitment from people. I don't want those shows to feel superfluous, but I also don't want it to be a thing where it's so involved and complicated and wrapped up in itself that if you're not watching everything, you won't understand the things that you're watching that you care about. And I know a lot of people, especially at this point, there are certain movies they're just not going to go to, and probably certain TV shows they're just not going to watch. So you got to be careful with that. But I mean, that's the thing that we've been, that we figured out how to do in comics a long time ago. That people still manage to, varying degrees of success, but like. You can have those things talk to each other without having to see everything. But I think you can make the assumption that everybody that's watching any of those shows is seeing the major films or most of the films. But again, there are certain things I wouldn't hedge my bets on too much. Like I know a lot of people that just don't bother with Ant-Man. And you can tell from the numbers. So yeah, but yeah, some, but not too much, I guess is my answer there. Kristen Ogden, $5 super chat. What's more shocking, Aladdin coming within a hair of $1 billion or Toy Story not even coming close? I have not been keeping up that hard, I guess, and I didn't realize either of those. That's disappointing to me for both of those things, because I didn't like Aladdin, and I don't think it deserves that. And Toy Story 4, I think, was really quite good. I am more surprised about the first thing than I am the second thing. There was not the buzz for Toy Story 4 that I think they expected, just because I think, honestly, it's just that number. I think it's just weird that they've made that many movies in one franchise, and it looks real cash grabby, where it's like, that's our tentpole franchise, that's where we started, and, like, universally everyone loves these movies. A couple of them have stuck around 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, it's a surefire bet. But the problem is, the movie was just that good. Like, it's worthy of everybody going and making $1 billion. And I only know that because I saw it, and I was on the fence about going, so I can't have been the only one. I think they advertised it wrong, and I think I would have taken the numbers off of it. I mean, you don't. It's nice to stay consistent with that, but there's just something about 4 that, like, sounds like too much. It's just really oversaturated, where it's like, really, you're gonna do that instead? Like, we had to wait that long for an incredible sequel, but you're already making Toy Story 4? Okay. And yet, there were a lot of years in between 3 and 4, you know? So, like, I was completely won over once I went, but I had a little bit of a negative attitude just watching the advertisements. So, like, the trailer. So some of it is that number, I think, and some of it is, I don't know that they advertised it quite right. I think maybe they relied too much on Forky, who is a character that I assumed, and I can't be the only one, that was going to be the most irritating thing on the planet. And then I saw it, and he's now my favorite Toy Story character. I just love him. I think Forky's is an astounding achievement, honestly, for that franchise. That they won me over on that is an achievement. He's inspired, but he didn't make me want to go see the movie. So I don't know. I hate to say play it safe with your advertising, but I almost think maybe they needed to play it safe with their advertising. Bag Studios, $1.99. What would you do with a sequel / spinoff to Detroit Become Human? Wow. I wouldn't do that. Is going to be my cop-out answer. And the reason is because you can have such a drastically different experience each time you play that game. Like, it can end in so many different ways that it would be really difficult and really weird to try to do sequels or even spin-offs to it, because the status quo of the world is different, I think, depending on where you get to at the end. Or is it just maybe you can keep certain characters alive, but by and large, it's still going to be kind of dystopian at the end. I don't know, because I've only played it through one time. But a lot of people talked about how amazing it was that there were all these different choices you had, and how dramatically different people's gameplays were. So with something that's that up, like, interactive and up to you, I don't know that it really makes sense. I would just want to see that caliber of the kind of, choose your own adventure, but with some action mixed in, gameplay, with just a different kind of world. I wouldn't want to see a sequel, but yeah, I don't even know what to say about what I would do with it, because the ending I got, there's no sequel to that. Back Studios, another $1.99 super chat. How will / should the MCU reboot the Netflix heroes? Okay, I've talked about this a little bit. Ready, give me just a second. I've been doing all the talking. So I think Daredevil, at the very least, is going to be a Disney Plus show. And that it will still be gritty, but it will be tamer than what Netflix did. And I think it will probably be closer in tone to the Marvel movies, partly to separate it from the more kind of gritty, stylized thing that Netflix did, and partly to have the kind of synergy they seem to be going for with those shows, for better or worse. I hate losing Netflix Daredevil. I don't want to say that will necessarily be horrible. I don't even think making it tamer means watered down necessarily, as far as sophistication of story and stuff. And doing a Daredevil that's a little bit closer to PG-13 allows you to mix it with Spider-Man, which I am all for. So it's not what I wanted, but I don't want to jump the gun and say it's necessarily going to be you know, like really horribly watered down and ruined. Beyond that, though, I don't know what other characters they'll do. I don't think you'll ever see Jessica Jones ever again. That is a property that's very difficult not to do in a rated R sense, and I don't get the sense that Disney is interested in doing anything as rough and tumble as that. Could be wrong, but like the rumors that Black Widow was going to be rated R seem to be not true. I don't think they're willing to do that even on television. And Disney Plus is, of course, going to be a thing that you're supposed to be able to let your kids look at. So I just don't see them doing that. But I think Luke Cage could come back. I don't think the Punisher will, unless he like guest stars in Daredevil again. It just has cameos and stuff. I could totally see that. But yeah, I don't see that. And but Luke Cage, so Luke Cage definitely, and Iron Fist I think could also potentially come back. Azim, $5 super chat. While I'm very much looking forward to Joker, despite my reservations, I kind of feel that not making it an anthology was a missed opportunity. I can see why you're saying that. Do you mean... Well, let me ask you. So I gotta ask you the follow-up, and don't feel the need to do a super chat for the follow-up, but when you say an anthology, do you mean a title that's like a series of movies where each of them is a different thing? Like, you know, a la Twilight Zone, where they're not set in the same universe necessarily, but they're all like, you know, gritty, hard R things based on superheroes? Or do you mean like a Joker anthology thing where like the movie itself would be in vignettes or something? I guess I don't completely understand the question. If you mean the first thing, I don't know. I'm of two minds about it. Like, on the one hand, I could see, like, you know, having a series called Elseworlds, because a lot of people thought that they were going to do that. You know, or that, like, all the movies that weren't in DCEU would be called Elseworlds, and then it turns out that they're just not really doing DCEU anymore anyway. They're not going to have a continuity like that, a consistent continuity. I could see having that as a banner to differentiate those, but I don't know that you gotta be that differentiated at this point, except that it is, and I've said this before, it's gonna be a little bit confusing moving forward, having characters and actors playing them that were in what we were calling the DCEU, and wondering forevermore if they're supposed to be in the same universe or not. But Azim says he actually meant the latter. No, I don't think so. That it would be like a vignette film with like several stories in it about the... I wouldn't have even thought of that. I don't know if that's a missed opportunity. That's a way to do it. That could have been really cool, but I don't know if I would call that a missed opportunity necessarily. But yeah, well, I just decided, you guys, that regardless of which thing he was asking about, that both of those were interesting questions, so that I would try to answer them both. Okay, let's go back to pre-written. I've got about 10 minutes left, guys. Okay, let me address this. Blue Dragon 5, he's saying this based on a poll that I put out yesterday on the channel about scripted versus unscripted. Cap, should we be concerned about unscripted rewinds in the future? Not the end of the world, I know, but I love a structured analysis as much as the next guy. No, I am not talking about doing that. I was mostly just curious to see the breakdown of what folks at the moment were most enjoying, because this just continues to be difficult. Rewinds are hard to get out on a real regular basis, but that's not to say that I want to do them unscripted. I just wanted to see what the percentages looked like, to see if I could keep getting away with doing some unscripted content when I'm by myself, and it looks like folks are not minding it. So that is the main reason I asked that question, but when rewinds come out, they will continue to be scripted. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, I could put them out a lot more often, even with stills and video, if I could just sit in front of a camera and just talk about a movie I just watched, but I wouldn't be happy with that, and I know a lot of other folks would not be as well. Tim Johnson, Cap, are you still going to make the rest of the Morphin Mania live stream shows available to the public? Yeah, eventually. I've talked about this before. I don't want to suddenly start saturating the channel with it. I've been streamlining, and we're still early enough in this kind of new phase of the channel that I didn't want to suddenly start doing that and push people off. As I have spread the videos out, we've been growing at a more steady rate, subscriber-wise, and the view counts for the videos have been better. And I don't want to scare new folks away suddenly putting up a bunch of Power Ranger videos. So I still haven't figured out exactly how I want to handle that strategically. And DJ and I are also talking about trying to figure out a way to at least finish the Mighty Morphin period, the Zordon era. So we very well may be finding a way to continue that show also. So I don't want to start doing anything with those until I know what the future of that is going to be. Cinematographic, I like scripted rewinds. Still waiting on a scripted rewind for the Thomas Jane Punisher movie. Yeah, it's a good point. I guess I do have a couple that aren't scripted because I wanted to do them with Vince back in the day because Vince knows Punisher better than I do. That could happen down the road. It does feel incomplete to not have one that's just me writing my thoughts down, so that could happen. I think now is a good time to reveal the, yeah, sure, no problem, Tim. And now's a good time to reveal the science fiction rewind I'm working on. It's cheap because it's not really a science fiction film, but it was the place to put it, and a lot of people, call these science fiction things, so I did it anyway. I got a request from Bag Studios to do not just this one, but all three of them. I have written a 1-hour analysis of Phantom Menace, and that is going to, so Star Wars Episode 1, which I know is like the most reviewed movie on YouTube, and I've always dreaded doing it. I was never going to. That's not a movie that I ever would have picked for myself. Never would have picked that for myself. But somebody requested it, and I decided to go ahead and take the challenge and honor that request. And so I have written, recorded, and now gotten edited that video, and it will go up tomorrow. So yeah, I'm a little bit nervous about it because I always feel weird talking about Star Wars, especially in that format, because it's not a thing that I know as well as some other stuff, and I feel like a noob. I say that in the video, but I had a lot of fun making this one, and I hope you guys enjoy it too. And it's also one of the most ridiculous teasers and the longest teaser I think I've ever made for a rewind. So yeah, look forward to that. So again, if you want to listen to that, watch that. Of course, it is full video now, stills and video now. If you want to watch that early, you can see it tomorrow on Patreon with just a $2 subscription. And if you want to wait, it will be up this weekend, either on Saturday or Sunday. Well, folks. No, in fact, Blue Dragon 5, I did not, everybody's making Plinkett references, of course. I did not do food analysis, actually, in this one, in particular. He asked if pizza rolls would be the food analysis. I didn't. I thought of a couple of mediocre ones, but I couldn't come up with a really great one. And I think I kept most of the food analysis to superhero, although I'm sure someone who remembers rewinds better than I do will be able to point to a science fiction rewind or an old Rewind United where I did a food metaphor and I don't even remember. But yeah, so look forward to that, and lots of other stuff coming your way soon. I have a couple of pre-recorded commentaries for requests that I've already done that will be coming up in the not-too-distant future. We're just not posting things immediately. We're spreading stuff out. So if you have a commentary request, you may be seeing it in the not-too-distant future. Going to be recording some comic ones soon as well. So lots of fun stuff coming your way soon. I'm going to go ahead and sign off, I think, but thanks a bunch for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. And again, I will definitely be back again next Wednesday night at 7 Central, and hopefully DJ will be able to join me. And I don't know what day we're going to be doing the extra one, but there will also be an extra one next week. Could be at a weird time, could be really late at night, could be in a different room in the house, could be at some other completely different location, especially if I'm doing it by myself. That is entirely possible. But, yeah, I hope you guys had a good time. I certainly did too. I want to thank everybody for the Super Chats tonight. It was absolutely insane. You guys are wonderful. It really means a lot. You guys really help me to continue this and make this the thing I do, to make this my job. It really means a lot, especially after a long day of editing. I've been at my desk almost nonstop, including this, since 9 a.m. trying to get that rewind done and then talking to you guys. And so after a long day like that, just all the support really means a lot, really helps. Thank everybody so very much. I'll see you again next week, guys. I'm Captain Logan, and thanks again. Bye, folks.